Every Who down at Whoville liked Christmas a lot, but the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas the whole Christmas season. Now, please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be perhaps that his shoes were too tight. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. But I think that the most likely reason of all could have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve, hating the Who's, staring down from his cave with a sour, Grinchy frown at the warm lighted windows below in their town. For he knew that every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now, hanging a holly Who wreath. "They're hanging their stockings," he snarled with a sneer. "Tomorrow's Christmas. It's practically here." Then he growled with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming. "I must find some way to keep Christmas from coming. For tomorrow, I know all the Who girls and boys will wake bright and early, and they'll rush for their toys, and then, oh, the noise, 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 noise. There's one thing I hate. All the noise, 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 noise. And they'll shriek, squeaks, and squeals, racing round on their wheels. They'll dance with jing-tinglers tied on to their heels. They'll blow their flue-flumpers, they'll bang their hartinkers. They'll spin their tromtunkas, they'll slam their slew-slunkers, they'll beat their bloom-blonkers, they'll wham their woe-wonkers. And then they'll play noisy games like Zarzifukuze, roller skate type of lacrosse and croquet. Then they'll make ear-splitting noises galooks on their great big electro-hucardio schnooks. Then the Who's, young and old, will sit down to a feast. They'll feast, and they'll feast, and they'll feast, 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 feast. They'll feast on Who pudding and rare Who roast beast. Ugh, roast beast is a feast I can't stand in the least. And then they'll do something that I hate most of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, will stand close together, with Christmas bells ringing. They'll stand hand in hand, and those Who's will start singing. And they'll sing, and they'll sing, and they'll sing, 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 sing. And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas thing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years I put up with it now. I must stop Christmas from coming. But how? Then he got an idea. An awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what to do, the Grinch laughed and clucked. I'll make a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. He chuckled. What a great Grinchy trick. With this coat and this hat, I'll look just like St. Nick. All I need is a reindeer. Well, the Grinch looked around, but since reindeer were scarce, there were none to be found. Did that stop the Grinch? Ha! The Grinch simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. So, He took his dog Max, and he took some black thread, and he tied a big horn on the top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks in a ramshackle sleigh, and he whistled for Max. And he said, "Get up." And then the sleigh started down towards the homes where the Whos lay a snooze in their town. All their windows were dark. No one knew he was there. All the Whos were all dreaming sweet dreams without care, when he came to the first little house on the square. "This is stop number 1, the old Grinchy Claus hissed as he climbed to the roof with empty bags in his fist. He slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch, but if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once for a minute or two, then he stuck his head out from the fireplace flue where the little Who stockings hung all in a row. "These stockings," he grinched, "are the first things to go." Then he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant around the whole room, and he took every present: pop guns, pantukas and drums, checkerboards, bizzlebigs, popcorn, and plums. He stuffed them in bags, then the Grinch very nimbly stuffed all the bags one by one up the chimney. He slunk to the icebox, he took the Who's feast, he took the Who pudding, and he took the roast beast. He cleaned out that icebox as quick as a flash. Why, that Grinch even took the last can of Who hash. He stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee, and now, grinned the Grinch, I will stuff up the tree. And as the Grinch took the tree and he started to shove, he heard a small sound like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast, and he saw a small Who, little Cindy Lou Who was no more than 2. She stared at the Grinch, and she said, "Sandy Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why?" But you know, that Grinch was so smart and so slick that he thought up a lie, and he thought it up quick. "Why, my sweet little tot," the Grinch lied, "there's a light on this tree that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, then I'll bring it back here." And his fib fooled the child. So he got her a drink, and he patted her head, and he sent her to bed. And when Cindy Lou Who was in bed with her cup, he crept to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar, and the last thing he took was the log for their fire. On their walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire, and the one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was even too small for a mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other Who's houses, leaving crumbs much too small for the other Who's mouses. It was 1:15. All the Who's still abed, all the Who's still a snooze, when he packed up his sleigh. He packed it up with their presents, their ribbons, their wrappings, their snoof and their fuzzles, their tringlers and trappings. 10,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet, he rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it. "Hoo-hoo" to the Who's, he was grinchily humming. They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open for a minute or two, then the Who's down in Whoville will all cry, Boo-hoo. That is a sound that I simply must hear. So he paused, and the Grinch put his hand to his ear, and he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, then it started to grow. But this sound wasn't sad. Why, this sound sounded glad. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, were singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. Somehow or other, it came. It came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. He puzzled and puzzled till his puzzler was sore, and the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville, they say, that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And now that the true meaning of Christmas came through, the Grinch gained the strength of 10 Grinches, plus 2. And now that his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light. With a smile in his soul, he descended Mount Crumpet, cheerily blowing hoo-hoo on his trumpet. He rode into Whoville. He brought back their toys. He brought back their floof to the Who girls and boys. He brought back their pantugas, their dafflers and wuzzles. He brought back their food for the feast. And then he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beast. Welcome, Christmas. Bring your cheer. Cheer to all Who's far and near. Christmas Day is in our grasp as long as we have hands to clasp. Christmas Day will always be just as long as we have we. Welcome Christmas while we stand, heart to heart and hand in hand.